Okay.
Oh, you watched.
I didn't even see the stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Georgetown University's Gaston Hall. Our program is about to begin. Please find your way to your seats. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the 2024 Hillary Rodham Clinton Awards. Georgetown University is committed to standards promoting speech and expression that foster the exchange of ideas and opinions. While it is recognized that not everyone may share the same views as the speaker, it is expected that everyone in attendance respects the rights of the speaker and the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace, and Security to share their perspectives and ideas by not causing a disruption to today's event. There will be a question and answer period following the panel discussion. Please phrase any questions in the form of a question. And now, kindly silence your phones. The ceremony will begin shortly. Thank you.
And now, please welcome to the stage the Executive Director of the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace, and Security, Ambassador Milan Vivir.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Georgetown's 2024 Hillary Rodham Clinton Awards ceremony to honor women who have played an exceptional role in advancing peace and security. The awards this year showcase women's political leadership as heads of state and government, as well as women's grassroots roles as peace builders. A very special welcome to the ambassadors who have joined us from Estonia, the European Union, Greece, Iceland, Italy, Lithuania, Norway, Slovenia, Rwanda, Tanzania, the United Kingdom, and Ukraine. Welcome to each of you and to the diplomatic representatives from Canada, Sweden, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. I want to thank Ambassador Pierce of the United Kingdom for hosting a lovely dinner last evening for our awardees. It was greatly appreciated. I also want to welcome and recognize U.S. government officials who are here this morning from the White House, the State Department, and USAID, and especially to acknowledge the U.S. Ambassador at Large for Global Women's Issues, Ambassador Geeta Rao Gupta. Welcome all. We are also very happy always to have Dean Hellman of our School of Foreign Service with us, and he will join us later on stage for the awards presentation. Lastly, let me add a very warm welcome to the Georgetown ambassadors for our institute. They have traveled from across the United States and overseas to be here today. And now it is always a great personal pleasure for me to introduce Secretary Clinton. And we are so happy to have her back on the hilltop. She has been extremely supportive of the Institute as our founding chair, and it was in 2011 that she came here as Secretary of State to launch the United States National Action Plan for Women, Peace, and Security here in Gaston Hall. Secretary Clinton's leadership on behalf of women's rights as human rights has had a profound impact around the world. She's achieved much as First Lady, as Senator, Secretary of State, and the first woman nominee for President of the United States by a major political party. She went on to win the popular vote for president in 2016, but fell short in the Electoral College. But what explains her best, I believe, is her commitment to helping others, to making a difference, and she has certainly done so for women. Half of the population of the world that is still too often marginalized, pushed back, and living on the outskirts of opportunity. Her latest book, just released, is called Something Lost, Something Gained. And there's a chapter entitled The White Scarves, which describes the work of our institute with her leadership and others to evacuate over 1,000 Afghan women and their families, human rights defenders who were at great risk to their lives when the Taliban stormed into Kabul and took control of Afghanistan. Several of the Afghan women leaders are here with us today, and we're so pleased that they could also join this event. And now, please give a very warm welcome to Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Milan, and it is always great to be back here at Georgetown. Dean Hellman, thank you for your leadership, School of Foreign Service, and to all of you gathered for this award ceremony. As Milan said, she and I dreamed up this institute and these awards more than a decade ago to recognize the importance of women's participation and leadership in global peace building and conflict resolution. I keep waiting for the year when that mission feels less urgent, but that is not this year. There is, as you all know so well, so many problems in the world, so much conflict, and we have to keep doing all that we can in order to move forward because we can't allow the forces of war and darkness and conflict to discourage us and to overwhelm our will. Because we have made progress. In the past 30 years, the number of women heads of state around the world has increased. The number of women in parliaments globally has doubled. But that is not enough, because simply embracing the concept of women's rights, even enshrining those rights in laws and constitutions, is not the same as achieving full equality. Rights are important, but they are nothing without the power to claim them and keep them. And it's not a coincidence. Yeah, that is true, right? Thank you. It is not a coincidence that harassment and attacks on women in public life is on the rise, particularly online. An overwhelming majority of women parliamentarians around the world report they have been subject to threats, misogynistic remarks, and internet abuse. Now, these attacks are designed to frighten, intimidate, discourage women, to keep us out of public life, to tell the next generation of women leaders, you are not welcome here. This is a dangerous space for women. We may have the right to speak, but do we have the right to power? The women we honor today have answered that question forcefully. They've laid a path out for us to follow, to show that public life is exactly where they and you belong. Julia Gillard is the former Prime Minister of Australia, the first and so far only woman to hold the post. Inside and outside of government, she has dedicated her career to service and advocacy for mental health, education, and women's leadership. And when we are finished here today, Google her speech before the Australian Parliament, going where most women leaders will not go, which is to call out the misogyny that she encountered as the leader of her country. Dr. Dalia Grybauskaitė is the former president of Lithuania. She, too, is the first woman to serve as her country's head of state. She led Lithuania as it joined the EU's free trade agreement. She's a leader on European unity, on gender equality, and I particularly remember the conversations I had with her when she was president, I was Secretary of State, her prescient warnings about the growing aggressiveness of Vladimir Putin, warnings that a lot of people did not want to hear at that time, with the hope that ignoring him and them would cause them to disappear. But Dalia understood the threat that an aggressive Russia under Putin posed before many others did. Kersti Kaljulaid is the former president of Estonia. In addition to being the first woman president, she was also the youngest to hold the position. She led her country through the worst of the global pandemic. She has been an outspoken advocate for domestic violence prevention, equality in the digital age, and freedom of speech. And as the president of Estonia, right there on the border with Russia, she has also been very aware of the continuing threats that her country and others have faced. I don't think I have to convince anyone in this room that society benefits from women leaders at every level. Countries with more women in leadership are more equal and more prosperous. They also have lower levels of corruption and more consistent delivery of public services. I think it's important that we recognize women's leadership in this way and hold it up as the Institute is doing here today. Because in my experience, whether it was the peace process in Northern Ireland, or the mediation between rival factions in Colombia, or negotiating ceasefires in places like South Sudan, or even right here in the US as we seek to end cycles of hatred and violence, when women have a seat at the table, they can be very helpful advocates for de-escalating conflict and finding solutions. That's why the work of two organizations we honor today with the Peace Builder Award and the two women here to represent them is so critically important. Women of the Sun is a Palestinian women's organization dedicated to increasing women's participation in Palestinian leadership, empowering women economically and politically, and ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Women Wage Peace is the largest grassroots peace movement in Israel, working to promote a nonviolent, respectful, and mutually accepted solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with the active participation of women through all stages of negotiations. I had the honor of meeting with both organizations virtually in June and then seeing them at the Clinton Global Initiative last week in New York. I am inspired by their courage, their empathy, and their determination to end the conflict. Together, Women of the Sun and Women Wage Peace have issued what they call a mother's call that recognizes the unique perspectives that women bring to the peace process. This mobilizes the uniting force of mothers who want safety, peace, and freedom for their children and every generation to come. I was proud to sign my name to the pledge in which the women of these two organizations affirm, across their differences, that we join hands in determination and partnership to bring hope back to our peoples. Their members are women in conflict zones who have lost children, parents, and loved ones. But instead of being embittered and turning to rancor and despair, they are working for peace. And we owe it to them and the loved ones they honor with their work to do the same. You know, there's a saying that hope is a muscle. It's not an abstract idea. It's what we have to do day after day, year after year, to make the world we want to leave to our children and grandchildren. And these two organizations and the women who are their members remind us that we can never, ever give up on the possibility of peace. Because the future we want for our daughters and our sons is only possible with the full participation of women in society, in government, in politics, and yes, in peace processes. So I want to congratulate all of this year's awardees. I want to thank them for their courage, their determination, their inspiration, for what they have done and continue to do every single day to help us continue to have that hope for a better future. So for me, coming here this year is a particular boost of hope and inspiration and energy to keep doing whatever I can, and I invite all of you to do the same, to follow the example of these extraordinary women, to show leadership of empathy, to show leadership that wants results, not just rhetoric and posturing, to work for the hardest kinds of resolutions of conflicts, to stand against aggression, to help us have that more peaceful and hopeful world. Thank you all very much.
Women political leaders are on the front lines trying to create a better future for us all. More peaceful, more just, more prosperous. Now, authoritarian forces are challenging our progress and making it more difficult for women leaders. But women are not giving up.
Bullies are aggressive precisely because they are weak and insecure.
Today, we celebrate women who are defending democratic values, who are countering the influence of authoritarian forces.
We have to stand up for Ukraine because they are fighting for the freedom of us all.
Who are standing up for the right of women to be in public life.
What the Leader of the Opposition should be ashamed of is his performance in this Parliament and the sexism he brings with it.
And who advance justice, equality, and democracy for all.
For us, what is important is to achieve the goal, and we go for it.
In moments of crisis, women show up and fight. Today, we honor these women as examples of resilience and strength, and salute their ongoing fight for democracy, justice, and peace.
A little perspective before we meet our awardees. Today, women are underrepresented at all levels of decision-making worldwide. As of June, there are only 28 women serving as heads of state or government. At this rate, it will take over 130 years to see gender equality in the highest positions of power. The full and equitable participation of women in public life is essential to building strong and vibrant democracies. The Harris nomination, for example, makes her only the second female as a U.S. presidential candidate ever put forward by a major political party here. And you just heard from the first one. For those 65 or older, not that long ago, they were born in a time when no woman led any country as president or prime minister. So we turn now to 3 women who made it to the top and led their countries with distinction. And Dean Hellman, can I ask you to please come up? Lithuania was the first country to declare independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. This is how Dalia Grybauskaitė described the period. We were at the forefront breaking down the Soviet Empire, but also the first to suffer harsh consequences, human casualties, and an economic blockade. We were learning by doing, learning how to build a country, learning how to make it function well. Starting in 1991, she worked in the Ministry of International Economic Relations, then in the Foreign Ministry. She was named Extraordinary Envoy and Minister at the Lithuanian mission to the EU. A few years later, she would go on to become Minister of Finance. And when Lithuania joined the European Union in 2004, she became the European Commissioner on the same day, later becoming the European Commissioner for Finance. In a poll conducted by European Voice, she was named Commissioner of the Year. In 2009, she decided to run for president, saying, "We all want to live without fear, with confidence in ourselves, in each other, and in tomorrow." She wanted, she said, to create a citizen-ruled Lithuania. Her financial competence and her integrity served her well. She won in a landslide, becoming not only the first female president of her country, but winning by the largest margin recorded for a free election in Lithuania. She was re-elected to a second term in 2014. She came to be known as the Baltic Iron Lady. She does happen to have a black belt in karate, but in part it was for her tough stance against Russia's influence, which she said was characterized by aggressiveness and a willingness to overstep boundaries. She's criticized Russia as a terrorist state which carries out an open aggression against its neighbors. President Grybauskaitė has a close relationship with Georgetown. She came here to study in a very special program shortly after Lithuania declared its independence from the Soviet Union. She told me that while she was here, she experienced real freedom, open and friendly people, and a vibrant academic life. The experience had a profound impact on her. She said she went home with the vision for her country in her heart and what could be. She's also been integral to our work with the Georgetown Institute, the work we do with Ukrainian women leaders, and most recently traveled with us to Poland for strategic planning with them. And now for the citation. For her long-standing commitment to public service, democracy, and a better life for her people, even when confronted with seeming insurmountable challenges. For demonstrating that a female head of state can be tough, competent, and empathetic, and show that responsibility is not a burden. And for courageously standing with the people of Ukraine, and speaking out in support of their independence, democracy, and freedom. Georgetown is proud to present the 2024 Hillary Rodham Clinton Award for Advancing Women in Leadership, Peace, and Security to the former President of Lithuania, Dalia Grybauskaitė. Congratulations. Kersti Kaljulaid is another inspiring example of high-level female political leadership in the Baltic region. In 2016, she was elected the 5th President of Estonia and first female head of state since the country declared its independence from the Soviet Union. Her political trajectory included working across the sectors. When Estonia joined the European Union, she was appointed as the representative to the European Court of Auditors. Earlier, she had served as economic advisor to the Prime Minister and held several positions in business, including CFO and CEO of IRU, the power plant of the state-owned energy company, being the first woman to lead a power plant in her country. As president, she worked to digitize Estonia. Today in Estonia, citizens vote, pay taxes, and manage government services all online, earning the government a reputation as the most advanced digital society in the world. And their technological progress was achieved through public-private cooperation. As she put it, we don't try to have a couple of clever men form the strategy. We are much more inclusive. We recognize for this to benefit everybody, the whole of society, we need to involve everyone. She has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to gender equality and has noted that progress is made thanks to women who keep using their voices for change. And she has led efforts against domestic violence, establishing abuse prevention programs, and incentivizing impactful initiatives. Since leaving the presidency, she's continued her work on behalf of women and children as the UN's global advocate for every woman, every child, to push for stronger cross-sectoral action for health. And she is one of the strongest voices on behalf of Ukraine. She's been tireless in raising awareness, advocating for greater support and greater sanctions against Russia. As she said, no autocrat will respect the will of the free and democratic world to defend itself if we lose this one. She described the ongoing war as one that is between the free world and the other world of tyranny. And now for the citation. For her dedication to public service and for modeling women's political leadership. For recognizing there can be no neutrality in the face of unprovoked aggression, and for reminding us of the perils of indifference. And for demonstrating the strength of public-private partnerships in advancing progress, working together. Georgetown is proud to present the 2024 Hillary Rodham Clinton Award for Advancing Women in Leadership, Peace, and Security to the former President of Estonia, Kersti Kaljulaid. Julia Gillard was first elected to Parliament in 1999. And after the Labour Party's victory in 2007, she was sworn in as the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia. 3 years later, she became Prime Minister and the first woman to serve in that position. In office, she effectively managed Australia's economy, the 12th largest in the world, during the global financial crisis. She also focused on reforming Australia's education at every level and established the nation's first ever national policies to care for people with disabilities, and led the adoption of the Clean Energy Act. Today, women in politics, as we've heard, are increasingly being attacked. Technology-facilitated gender-based violence, including political violence, has become a present-day reality. As Prime Minister, she faced unprecedented sexist attacks from her opposition. She has openly talked about the toxicity women leaders often face online and on social media. In 2012, she gave a speech in Parliament that has become known around the world as the misogyny speech. In Australia, it was voted the most unforgettable moment on television. It was an historic speech that went viral and has withstood the test of time, no doubt because the shocking misogyny she experienced continues to touch a chord today. In her Parliament speech, she noted that the attacks on her would never have been said against a man sitting in the Prime Minister's seat. And she has also showed that it is possible to stand up and name and shame sexist abuse and misogyny for what it is. Since leaving politics, she has been dedicated to supporting women leaders, speaking about the barriers and attacks they continue to face. And to that end, she has written several books, including her most recent, Not Now, Not Ever, 10 years on from the misogyny speech. Today, she is the chair of King's College London's Institute on Women's Leadership. Deeply committed to education and development and a lifelong champion of educational opportunity and progress, she has served for many years as the chair of the Global Partnership for Education and has been particularly supportive of girls' education to get the access to education that they need, still a challenge in many parts of the world. And now for the citation. For her service in politics and effective advancement of issues of critical importance from education to clean energy, for her courage in calling out sexism and misogyny for what it is, and for continuing to help women overcome barriers to leadership, and for her commitment to access to education, especially for girls, where it remains a serious challenge. Georgetown is proud to present the 2024 Hillary Rodham Clinton Award for Advancing Women in Leadership, Peace, and Security to the former Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard.
كلنا أمهات وبنعرف قديش حجم الوجع لما بنفقد أولادنا.
אני פה בגלל אימא שלי, וזה מה שמחבר את כולנו פה היום.
I'm very concerned. I have to do something.
This situation has gone far enough. It's about time we take matters into our own hands.
Women have joined forces to wage a campaign to put peace back on top of the political agenda.
ويجب أن تشارك المرأة في جميع عملية التفاوض.
When women from both sides of the conflict unite, things happen, and we don't want any more victims on either side.
وقع في امرأة موجودة في محل سياسي في حرب.
וחובתנו להגן על החיים שלהם. אין כוח בעולם שיעצור אותנו.
קריאת האימהות שלנו, הזעקה המשותפת, חייבת להתחזק ולהתרחב.
من هنا نريد أن نصعد. لن ننتظر أكثر من ذلك. لسنا راغبات في الصمت.
דווקא מתוך הכאבים הגדולים שכולנו נושאות, עלינו לפעול לשינוי המציאות.
Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can. معا لدينا القدرة على تشكيل إرث من السلام والتفاهم والمصالحة.
We live in troubled times. War seems to be the new normal. Death and destruction are raging. Missiles fly, bombs drop, people suffer. Peace is elusive, indeed, seemingly impossible. Today's crises envelop many places, and significantly Palestine and Israel. It's been said that some people see things as they are and ask why. Others see them as they could be and ask, why not? Believing the latter, Women Wage Peace, based in Israel, and Women of the Sun, based in Palestine, came together across the divide in an historic partnership, which was launched in 2022. Their movement is nonpartisan, does not support any one specific solution to the conflict, but that it be nonviolent, respectful, and mutually accepted. It empowers women from diverse communities to build trust across divides, leading to a unified demand for diplomatic negotiations with full representation of women to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They recognize the pivotal role women must play in fostering justice, peace, and security, yet acknowledge their marginalization in formal peace processes to date. Women Wage Peace advocates for the inclusion of Israeli women in politics, in parliament, in security, related decisions of all kinds, and in peace negotiations. Women of the Sun similarly seeks to empower women in the Palestinian community, politically and economically. Just 3 days before the horrific Hamas attack on October the 7th, thousands of women gathered at Jerusalem's Tolerance Monument to rally and march for peace, organized by the two groups. Both groups have lost members in the war. Women Wage Peace lost in the Hamas attack. One of their founders, Vivian Silver. Women of the Sun members have been killed in Gaza. Pain is not a stranger to either side. The two groups have issued a mother's call, formulated jointly. It began, "We, Palestinian and Israeli women from all walks of life, are united in the human desire for a future of peace, freedom, equality, rights, and security for our children and the next generations." It goes on, "We believe that the majority of the people of our nations also share our mutual desire. Therefore, we demand that our leaders listen to our call and promptly begin peace talks and negotiations with a determined commitment to achieving a political solution to the long and painful conflict within a limited time frame." Their work takes courage. There are forces on both sides who criticize their coming together for peace. There are others who say they are tilting at windmills. This is futile work. However, they, like peace builders in the world over, are courageous fighters for justice and peace. They are facilitating dialogue. They are giving people hope. They are advancing negotiations. Women Wage Peace and Women of the Sun are a bridge over troubled waters. They have inspired many by their efforts at home who are joining their movement, and many around the world. They have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Waging peace is hard. May salam and shalom become a reality in their war-torn communities. Now for the citation. In recognition of their unwavering courage and indomitable spirit in advancing peace and justice in Israel and Palestine, and for demonstrating the power of women-led grassroots movements, Georgetown is proud to present the 2024 Hillary Rodham Clinton Award for Advancing Women in Peace and Security to Women Wage Peace and the Women of the Sun. And accepting the award for Women Wage Peace is Angela Scharf and Reem Hajareh for Women of the Sun. Please welcome. And now we're going to have a chance to hear from our honorees. President Grybauskaitė, let me start with you. In a world experiencing a democratic backsliding and the rise of authoritarianism, a world where international peace and security are under threat, something you've known for a long time, what advice would you give to emerging leaders on navigating this challenging environment?
It is very tempting as for the leader, especially in difficult times, including in the war times, to use strength and to limit partly democratic powers and rights. But even having that in mind, there's burden of responsibility for the leader. Any leader needs to understand that democratic values and democracy is a guarantor of peace and freedoms for everybody, for people, for families, for human rights, for women, and for country. And we need to fight all with such temptation, and every day to fight against any attempt from inside and from outside especially, to hamper, to change our lives, and to discuss and to ignore democracies around the world. And for our countries who enjoy democratic governing, we need to fight every day, showing example, showing our commitment, and proving every day that it is a guarantor of our freedoms.
President Kaljulaid, you've done so much to advance digitization in Estonia. How do you see it impacting your work, digitization, to uphold democracy, human rights, and the rule of law? And on the other side, how can we ensure that digital transformation supports rather than undermines democracy and gender equality?
Yes, thank you for that question, and thank you for the whole audience for being so warm here. Indeed, digital society is new to us, but we have always to remember that the rules which apply in analog world, the human rights, respect of each other, etc., this always also applies similar way in the digital world and also in the future, the new AI-enhanced world. It is very important that as we move from one level to the other, of technological development, we keep our basic value structure and value frame in place. It has been quite wild, I have to say, in social media. And of course, our adversaries are trying to make use of that, so be aware. Also before the elections, wherever these elections in democratic country take place, our adversaries choose their favorites. They try to harm the other part. And if we're not very careful, then they might have success. We have to be vaccinated against these negative developments in the digital world, but also to enhance this, to keep societies for good together. Women who want to fight domestic violence can gather from Australia and Tallinn in the same Zoom space, for example. This is a positive application, not to stress only the negative. Very important is that our future artificial intelligence is always trained to respect human rights and the basic values of humankind. For that, these models must be under the responsibility of the companies who have created them. They cannot be open source, free source, because then you can use this model to train it to do harm. That's very important. It cannot be advertisement-based, breaking our society into varied bubbles. It has to be controlled for the good of the people and also for the safety of our digital space. Thank you.
Prime Minister Gillard, we know that women are and have been deterred from running for political office because of misogyny, personal attacks, and gender stereotyping, especially on social media, and from political opposition, as you yourself experienced. What are some effective strategies to combat these attacks?
Thank you very much for that question and for including me in this wonderful event. First and foremost, I think, to combat these attacks, we've got to shine a light on them. We can't let people just watch these attacks go by, have them shape public opinion, have them potentially deter women from running. We've got to shine a very bright light on them. And I actually think, as a result of Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, we, the hard way, learned a lot about how gender can be used as a weapon in politics. And now we've seen that, we can call it out, come together to fight it. It has less power once you shine a light on it. So that, I think, is number one. Number two, I am a huge proponent of very strong social media regulation. I think we get very perplexed here about questions like, are social media companies the equivalent of publishers who need to take control and responsibility of the words, or are they the equivalent of bookstores and have lesser responsibility? I think that's a dry debate and we shouldn't be having it. In reality, if we see words of hate, of violence against women, of misogyny, time after time on social media platforms in a way that it would be unlawful to put them in a newspaper, then that double standard can't continue to exist. Social media needs to take responsibility for that, and if they don't eliminate it from their platforms, then there needs to be the strongest form of regulation. And I am more optimistic about achieving that now than I have been at any other time. I think that there is a rising community sentiment that from a variety of perspectives, whether it's teenage mental health or whether it's the perspective I'm putting now about hatred and misogyny and violence online, I think there is an uprising in communities wanting to see a different way forward, and I think there will be more appetite for regulation. And then third, I do think we've got to get to the base of what drives the misogyny, drives the hate. And, you know, we've often thought to ourselves that it's a question of education and every generation to come will be more progressive on these questions than the generation that went before. But I think we need to recognise now that we can see in the data that for the youngest generation there is a backlash. There are significant numbers of young men, by no means the majority, but significant numbers of young men who do, when asked, exhibit quite gender aggressive attitudes towards women. They think that the project of gender equality has discriminated against them and they are lashing out. And we at the Global Institute for Women's Leadership, in the work that we do, have shown that through polling, but we think so much more needs to be done to analyse what is shaping those attitudes and to ensure that we can change them for the future. Otherwise, we will see that progress through the generations as today's younger generation ages and potentially take us backwards from where we are now. So a big agenda, call it out when you see it, press for social media regulation, and let's get to the bottom of what is driving the backlash and take the sting out of it.
Reem, tell us about Women of the Sun and how you came to partner with Women Wage Peace.
نساء الشمس هي منصة فلسطينية للنساء الفلسطينيات.
Women of the Sun is a Palestinian platform for Palestinian women.
التمكين السياسي والاقتصادي.
It focuses on political and economic empowerment.
لرفع الوعي.
Raising awareness.
تمكينهم من أجل حقوقهم.
Empowering them when it comes to demanding their rights.
المنصة اللي بيفرغوا فيها النساء كل آلامهم.
It's a platform where women come to vent and talk about their pain.
بيحكوا عن أوجاعهم.
Talk about their suffering.
عن فقدهم لأولادهم.
Their loss of their children.
عن جلوسهم في المستشفيات مع أبنائهم الجرحى.
On sitting in hospital rooms accompanying their wounded children.
وعن أبنائهم الأسرى. أبنائهم الأسرى.
About their detained children.
اليوم نساء الشمس هي منظمة لأكثر من 3000 امرأة فلسطينية.
Women of the Sun now is an organization that has more than 3,000 women.
من الضفة الغربية وقطاع غزة والقدس الشرقية.
From Gaza, from Eastern Jerusalem and the West Bank.
منصة نساء الشمس هي من أجل رفع الوعي السياسي لدى المرأة بظل كل الظروف الصعبة اللي بتعيشها.
Women of the Sun is a platform to raise women's awareness politically in light of all the difficult conflict and situation that they're experiencing.
لأنه كان من الضروري النساء يكون في عندها نوع من الثقافة اللي تقدر تعرف كيف تحمي أولادها من الانجراف السياسي.
Because it was very important for women to have that awareness that can help them protect their children from being pulled in political conflicts.
النساء بترفض إنها تكون ضحايا.
These are women that refuse to be victims.
وبدها تحكي بكفي.
Who say, no, stop, it is enough.
بدنا نحمي أولادنا من دائرة الدم.
We want to protect our children from this cycle of bloodshed.
وبدنا نعيش ضمن حرية ومساواة.
And live in equality and with freedom.
كمان بتطالب النساء الفلسطينيات بوجودهم على طاولة المفاوضات.
We also demand for Palestinian women to be on the negotiating table.
لأنه بالعادة يتم استثنائهم من أي حل سياسي.
Because usually they're being excluded from any political solution.
حتى في أثناء الحرب لا ما بتستشار ما بأخذ برأيها.
Even now in this period of war, they are neglected and their voices are not being heard and they're not being consulted with.
فبدخلوا في الحرب بدون استئذان. بدخل الحرب بدون استئذان.
So they are pulled into the war without seeking their permission.
وهذا الإشي اللي بيخلي منهم هم ضحايا كتار هم وأولادهم.
And this makes them and their children's victims.
بالنسبة لشركتنا مع نساء يصنعن السلام.
With regards to our partnership with Women Wage Peace,
فإحنا كان كثير إن لغة مشتركة بيناتهم بين بعض.
We were able to find a common language between us and them.
اللي هي لغة الأمومة.
And this was the language of motherhood.
النساء بدهم يدافعوا عن أولادهم.
These are women that want to defend their children and protect them.
من الموت المحتم في مناطقنا.
From inevitable death in our region.
احنا ملينا الموت، ملينا الحروب.
We are tired of wars, we're tired of death.
فقررنا نعمل إشي مشترك ونطلع فيه للعالم.
So we decided to create a partnership to offer the world.
بدون اتهامات، بدون توجيه اللوم.
Without pointing fingers, without blaming each other.
ونحكي بصوت عالي.
And speak in a loud voice.
إن أمهات فلسطينيات وإسرائيليات يرفضن الموت لأولادهم.
And say that Palestinian women, Palestinian mothers, and Israeli mothers, we refuse for our children to be killed.
ساعدونا في إيقاف دائرة الدم.
So help us. So support us in ending this cycle of blood.
العالم كله بوجه النظر للحروب بس ما بوجه النظر لعمليات السلام.
The entire world usually focuses on the ongoing wars, but they rarely focus on efforts to create peace.
احنا من خلال شراكتنا بنحاول نلفت العالم انه في طرف اخر بده سلام وبده حرية وبده أمان وبده كتير أشياء.
So through our partnership, we try to show the world that there is another side that is asking for peace, that's asking for security, and has many other demands.
شكرا.
Thank you.
So Angela, tell us what inspired the Mother's Call. We just heard from Reem. And what do you anticipate from coming together with the Mother's Call it will lead to across the communities that are so divided?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for granting us this precious award. Thank you, Secretary Hillary Clinton and Ambassador Melan Verver. Well, we started writing our Mother's Call in 2019. We came together with some courageous women, Palestinian women, and we started to negotiate. We wanted to write down a common view, a statement of our common vision, of our shared vision, of our desires, of our dreams, of our common language. We built a common language without shaming and blaming. Well, to say that it was easy, it wasn't easy. Every single word had to be negotiated because every word had a different meaning also in our different societies. But we made it. We made it. It took us 9 months, but we made it, like giving birth. We ask our leaders to listen to our call for peace and to start negotiation. There is definitely no other way. And we thank everybody who is joining us in our voice of peace all over the world. And especially thank you to all the people here in the US and all over the world, because it is amazing the reception that we received here during the last few days. Well, we believe that there is another way, that without the diplomacy, we would just stay Israelis and Palestinians in an ever-continuing bloodshed. We don't want that. We don't accept that. We simply don't accept it. We believe that our voices and our actions on the ground can make a difference, that women can make a difference. And this is exactly what the UN Resolution 1325 said, that women should be participating and included in negotiations for peace. And we can see in history that it actually worked, like in Liberia, like in Northern Ireland, like in Colombia. When women from both sides come together, from both sides of the conflict, come together, good things can happen, and sustainable peace can be achieved. And we have a lot of hope, and we are looking for reconciliation. As difficult as it will be, but we are looking forward, and this is the only way. Many people helped us to sign our Mother's Call. One of them is Pope Francis, who even signed it. And of course, Mrs. Hillary Clinton, Melan Weber. You ask us what we are doing on the ground. On the ground, we are having different projects that we are doing together. One of them is in partnership with USAID, that we are building up groups on each side to work on religion and environment, and to bring these messages of religion and peace and environment and peace to their communities, their families, their friends. We started already to have these meetings. We had 4 sessions on our side and 4 sessions on the side of the Palestinians. Now we were supposed to have the sessions together. Unfortunately, in September, we did not succeed to meet together, but we did it by Zoom. We don't give up. Whatever will happen, we will continue. So, just to say, there is absolutely no other way. We have to live together, we will live together, so we want to live together in peace. Thank you.
Secretary Clinton, we've been honoring some of the women who have achieved the highest political office and those at the grassroots level who are doing hard work as well. Why is it important for both levels to cooperate and to work together and collaborate?
Well, I think you can see from the women who received the award this year, and you've just heard from, that there is a common thread that goes through what each of them has said. You know, the defense of human rights, the defense of democracy, bringing people together, trying to cross divides, standing up against autocracy and extremism, wherever it might be. And so what I think this represents so clearly is the need for both women in leadership to continue to demonstrate their commitment to the kind of work that women on the ground are doing in very difficult circumstances. When you mention Liberia, Northern Ireland, Colombia as 3 examples, and all of whom have been honored in prior award ceremonies by the Georgetown Institute, it took that kind of cooperation. First, recognition that from a leadership position, you needed to know what was going on the ground. You needed to have people who were working in communities to cross divides, then to use the government, to use peace processes to make sure that women's voices were included. And in those 3 examples of the end of conflicts, we saw very clearly what that partnership meant. That even in Northern Ireland, the creation of a women's party to make sure that women were literally at the table of any kind of negotiation was a great way of demonstrating that the work at the grassroots that the women had been doing, trying to meet with each other, to do exactly what you both are doing, to try to say, we don't want our sons and our husbands and our fathers to die anymore in conflict. We want people to work together for a better future. All of that requires both people in positions of power who can open doors and make things happen, and people who do the hard work of weaving together peace at the grassroots level.
Thank you. And now, we're going to turn to our students who have some questions. I'll start with Sarah Kate Hamami. And please tell us what school you're in. Someone have a...
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm over here. Sorry. My name is Sarah Kate. I'm a fourth-year student in the undergraduate college here. My question was about activism around Israel and Palestine on university campuses. It has been criticized for being disruptive and hostile. What do you think about this assessment, and in what ways can students help contribute to a peaceful dialogue and a resolution?
Do you want to direct your question to a particular member of the panel?
Particularly Women of the Sun and Women Wage Peace, but I would love the other members to speak on it if they have opinions as well.
Thank you.
العمل المشترك اللي بنعمله احنا والنساء الإسرائيليات مش عمل سهل على الإطلاق.
The common work that we do with the Israeli women is not an easy work at all.
في غياب الثقة وانعدام التوازن.
Especially in light of inequality and lack of trust.
بس احنا قدرنا ننجح في تخطي كل الأزمات هاي.
But we have been successful in overcoming all these obstacles.
بأنه اخترنا لغة ما يكونش فيها اتهامات.
Through selecting a language that has no blame in it.
ونحكي بلغة المشاعر اللي بتجمعنا كنساء بشكل عام من كل العالم.
And use the language of emotions that connect us, mothers and women all around the world.
أتوقع فيش اتنين بيختلفوا على رأي إنه إحنا كأمهات من حقنا ندافع عن أولادنا.
I don't think anyone could dispute with us that as women we have the right to defend the well-being of our children.
وهاي اللغة اللي إحنا بنستخدمها مع الشارعين.
And this is the language that we are using with both the Palestinian and the Israeli side.
عشان هيك كثير مهم بالنسبة لنا إنه ما نوقف ونستمر لأنه إحنا بنعطي الأمل للكل.
And that's why it's very important for us to not to stop our work, because we are giving hope to others.
Angela, maybe you can tell us how you see the protests as the student asked. And what particularly can students be doing in a positive way?
Well, I would say our message is tell the students, don't be pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, just be pro-peace. This is...
I think that sums it up very well. We're going to turn now to Adia Armstrong.
Good morning. My name is Adia Armstrong. I'm a second-year master's student in the Global Human Development Program in the School of Foreign Service. And my question is, how has your understanding of courageous leadership evolved over the course of your career, and especially as you've listened to the voices and experiences of marginalized women? Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we'll start with the former President of Estonia.
I thought I would really like to open an answering round for this question because, you know, I was a young advisor to Estonian Prime Minister in the year 2000, and I was here in Washington. And I was visiting the memorials, which you all know. And I was reading the words, and I was understanding 10 years after my country regained the independence and we joined the family of democratic nations, that each and every one of us who has had the good or bad luck, whichever way you want to look at it, to enter or be close to the government, has to always, whatever they do, every morning look into the mirror and see, I am this person in this job. What can I do to defend, to protect every single one of us, every single value, which was also visible on these plates, which I was reading here in Washington. And when I became president in 2016, I cited the only thing we have to fear is the fear itself in my inauguration speech. Thank you.
And now to Joanna Freeman.
Hi, my name is Johanna Freeman, and I'm a first-year master's student at the School of Foreign Service. My question is, what would you say to your 25-year-old self?
What would you say to your 25-year-old self?
I'm happy to answer that, and the first thing I'd say...
We might hear from the others as well.
The first thing I'd say to my 25-year-old self is don't be so naive, because I was a very naive 25-year-old, and I had concluded to myself that everyone was on to gender inequality and race discrimination, and because everybody recognised that these things were wrong and unfair, they were all going to be fixed very quickly. So by the time I was in my 40s or whatever, this would all be in the rear view mirror. That's how naive I was. So I would say to my 25-year-old self, don't be that naive. There will be barriers and obstacles and things that just happen because you're a woman. And you need to be ready for those moments when they come. Don't assume they're not going to come, because they will. And you need to think now what strategies you will employ in those moments, not only to hold your own corner as an individual, but to make space for the others who come with you and who come after you, women from all walks of life, women of all shapes, sizes, varieties, everyone. What can you do in that moment that helps make more space? And I think one of the advantages that you have coming up today is you've had the benefit effectively of seeing this movie before. You've seen what happened, for example, when Secretary Clinton ran. You're seeing now, as Vice President Harris runs, the critiques that come because of gender and race. And you can therefore be more knowing and more ready and more effective at pushing these barriers back.
Probably I was not so clever. But I can say, looking back, well done. Because at that time, I believed that you can do anything in the world. You need just to learn, to study, to be curious, and to go for it. Go through the wall. Don't look for the window. Don't look for the doors. Go through the wall if you think it is necessary. So I think, well done.
Hillary, what were you seeing when you were 25?
Oh, I can't even remember that far back. I think a combination of what Dalia and Julia said. You have to have a sense of optimism and confidence that whatever path you choose, you can actually pursue your own interests, your dreams. But you do have to be realistic, and you do have to understand the challenges ahead so that you can be effective in trying to continue whatever work you're doing. But I especially agree with Julia in her saying that, you know, this generation of young women particularly has the benefit of seeing a lot that has gone on and understanding how challenging the work is, whether it's in politics and government or peace building. So there are lots more lessons that can be learned than there were certainly when I was 25, or when I was thinking about being an advocate on behalf of children and families. And I sort of had the idea that all you had to do was tell people that there were these problems that existed, and once they knew about it, they would actually act. Children with disabilities weren't going to school, so let's change the law. It was really hard, and now we know how hard change is and how challenging it is to be a change maker. But knowing that, I think, is actually going to better prepare you to go the distance. Because the naivete, the idealism, the shock at the things people say that they refuse to do, the real opposition and resistance that exists in any society to that kind of positive change, we just know a lot more about it. But it does mean that you have to be in it for the long run, that you can't get discouraged, you have to be resilient, you have to build, like I said before, hope is a muscle, well, resilience is learned behavior. You have to be prepared to keep going no matter what stands in the way, to go through that wall, not the door or the window if necessary. And you also have to find common cause with people who share your hopes, your dreams, your plans, your agendas. And so you are buttressed and supported as you go through it. But it's great work. I mean, I don't think any of us sitting here would tell you we're sorry we did what we did, and that we are still fighting for peace, to save the children, to create a better future for Palestinians, Israelis alike, or to get into a position of political authority that enables you to be in the room where decisions are made and to try to have a positive influence on your country, on your community, whatever it might be. But you just have to be prepared. You have to go in it now with your eyes wide open. And there's a lot of good stories of other women and what we were up against that I think can be very useful if that's the road you take.
Thank you. And our last question is from Ava Kawamura. Is she here?
No, apparently not.
Well, that brings us to the end of our question period. We now have a wonderful announcement that is going to be made by Carolina Garcia Jerum, who is representing the Elevate Prize Foundation. Carolina, can you come up to the podium, please?
Thank you, Milan, and good morning to everyone. It is an absolute privilege to be here with you all today, celebrating these extraordinary women. When we at the Elevate Prize launched the Get Loud Award 2 years ago, we already knew the transformative power that visibility can bring to grassroots movements, and that the leaders, the women who are often the leaders of these grassroots movements, are truly the heartbeats and the conscience of our society. Women like today's honorees, who unapologetically get loud for the change that will bring peace and prosperity to their communities. It would be nearly impossible to find two change agents as brave and as worthy of support and of critical visibility as Women of the Sun and Women Wage Peace. At a time when division seems to threaten nearly every corner of our globe, these organizations, represented here today by Reem and Angela and colleagues in the audience as well, have chosen to rise above what could have easily divided them and embracing their shared values as women and as mothers, calling to end the suffering and the violence. By honoring and shining a critical light on their work, we undoubtedly help to advance it. We also understand how crucial funding, consistent and unrestricted funding, is to the grassroots leaders like them, who can quickly understand, effectively mobilize, and immediately address the most important and urgent needs. This year, we are so honored to join forces with the Hillary Rodham Clinton Awards and, of course, the Institute for Women, Peace, and Security that I am so proud to be a part of. And through our Get Loud initiative, offer each of these organizations an unrestricted award of $25,000 plus visibility support that we will continue to offer them for the days to come to make sure that their work is so essential work continues to move forward. But you know, what's even more powerful than me or anyone else at Elevate, getting to choose who gets $25,000 to advance their work? It's all of you doing it with your vote, which, if you haven't heard, we are encouraging all of you to vote at any and all moments when you are given the opportunity. When you were all entering the auditorium this morning, you had a chance to vote on which topic we will name as our next Elevate Prize Catalyst Award on Instagram later this month. For those of you who voted, I want to say thank you for participating in this and sending the clear message that you believe in the power of community-based change and, more importantly, in your individual roles in making that change happen. Before I leave the stage, it is my pleasure to announce the selected topic, which you all voted on. There it is, climate change and disaster risk reduction. So with this Elevate Prize, we will be giving to an organization somewhere in the world that all of you will hopefully help us find. We open nominations on October 10th, and we hope you follow us on Instagram at Elevate Prize. And thank you so much for letting us be part of this beautiful day.
So we're very gratified to the Elevate Prize Foundation for providing both Women Wage Peace and Women of the Sun $25,000 each for them to use in the ways that are most appropriate to advancing their work. So thank you, and just a word in closing. It took a village to mount the program today, and I especially want to thank Sarah Rutherford, Helen Rocker, Rebecca Riddell, Michelle Brady, Colleen McMahon, Anna Lujava, and Lexi Gopin for their extraordinary hard work over many, many hours and many days. And a very special thank you always to Mary Haynes and to Jackson Menner with the President's Office for guiding us to another wonderful awards event. So thank you to all of them. Thank you all for joining us. The program has ended, but our work is just beginning. And a very special additional round of applause to our awardees.
Just say one word?
No, we're done.
To admire.
It's okay. Well done.
Will you take it?
Yeah, we'll give it to you.